Hi, I'm Darlene Carman.
And I'm Doug Carman.
And welcome to the show. Julia Bell is a landscape design specialist and owner of Bell and Flourish. On the previous show, we discovered new ways to bring life and vigor to a weary garden. Julia's artistic talents extend to floralscapes as well as landscapes. She often uses mixed natural media in her centerpieces for weddings, restaurants, and backdrops. She has something special in mind to create for us today. Can't wait. Hey, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Now, you have like two businesses in one. I mean, you have your landscape part and then you have this part. How many people do you have working for you? And did you add the second line or did you always have it?
You know, it stemmed out of my landscape design business, and I bring in people to work with me on an as-needed basis. I work with a lot of contractors, skilled artisans. It really depends on what kind of projects I'm dreaming up.
You need a lot of people, I imagine, especially you know when you do a wedding or something like that.
Yes, it's a lot of work.
Yeah.
Well, you just finished up a weekend charity event. How did that go?
It went great, yeah. My friends are involved in a bike advocacy group in Santa Cruz called People Power, and I always donate flowers to their charity auction, and then we give all the flowers away at the end to the volunteers. It's always a really fun event, and I like to help out because I don't get to ride my bike as much because I have to drive my landscape truck around.
And so what is the bike event for?
It's really to help raise awareness. They also you know, help the local governments know what the bike riders need as they're expanding projects. Santa Cruz is a really bike-friendly town. Yeah. It's a wonderful place to ride.
Yeah.
Well, let's. You have some pictures that of some
Yes.
of your arrangements and that.
Yes, I do.
Yeah, let's take a look at those.
Yeah.
Let's see some of those pictures. Oh, here we go.
So that is from a wedding that I did, and it shows just a mixture of flowers, a little bit more traditional. All of that is relatively floriferous material, as we say, not a ton of greenery. And the next one, that's one of my landscapes, and that shows kind of the crossover between how I approach landscape and floral design. The next one shows some of the same plant materials used in a vase at the restaurant Laili downtown Santa Cruz. And the next one is how I used some artichokes for my friend's wedding. That was such a blast. There's a few more of this and how we incorporated, I think, a mixture of vegetables, flowers. The next picture shows that as well. Those were hanging jars at the event where they, and we actually ended up eating some of the artichokes at the after party. The next one also shows.
Oh, that's pretty.
That's a little bit of a mixture that I like to do of landscape plants. So some of those I actually grew, and then there's tulips and a much darker range of color. That was for a wedding.
Looking.
Yeah, that's from the charity event that I was just talking about, and the next picture shows the arrangements after I populated them. But I took a lot of the vases from the thrift store, and so we were able to do a lot on a pretty low budget. Let's see what's next. That's a table. That's that table arrangement at the event.
So you did all the florals for all the tables, the centerpieces.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, have you ever been stumped trying to come up with an idea to satisfy a customer's request?
If anything, I think I usually have the problem of too many ideas and finding what's really going to be right. We usually have an idea of their color range. You're always working with what season it is, some of the parameters like that.
Yeah. Well, was there anything like really, really unusual that really stands out in your head?
Well, there was a wedding where they wanted their colors to be pink and orange, and I thought, well, goodness, that's not what I would choose. But as a designer, my job is to find out how to make that beautiful. And I thought they turned out so cheerful and gorgeous. and you
Sounds
just run with it.
Kind of.
Yeah, you know, it was a lot more beautiful than it sounds.
What was your plant material? Did you use?
I used a lot of dahlias. Those come in beautiful pinks and orange. And then I also used Queen Anne's lace as a kind of misty white texture. And we also put lace on the tablecloths. So it kind of toned down the color range a little bit. And made it a little less crazy.
Well, I'm just really, really anxious to find out what you're going to do here. So let's just let you, I want to give you plenty of time to get started.
Do we get to eat these afterwards?
There are some artichokes.
That's a great idea.
Absolutely.
Let's eat our centerpiece.
You know, I really like being able to use some of these after the fact. That's sort of what led me to be using some of the vegetables. So I always start by what you call greening up the arrangement. So that's just working with your greens. It provides a nice framework for everything, and your greens are also your least expensive floral material. So that's how you can get your budget to extend.
So then your green kind of adds contrast into your flowers.
Absolutely, it makes your flowers pop. So this is seeded eucalyptus. I love it because it works with so many different styles.
Doesn't smell.
It's available year-round, and it has some neat texture to it too. So you know, if I was putting this in the vase, I'd sort of start by arranging a few of these. You kind of
if we can hold the vase up there, because you can't see the vase.
Well, we could move a couple things in the front, or
out of the way so we can see the vase.
Yeah.
Oh, the good thing to eat here. That's the good stuff.
And this is just providing also a little bit more fullness for your arrangement. And I find that once I've put in the greens, it's already looking at least a little bit interesting.
Sure.
Before you've even spent a lot of money on flowers.
And I like your glass thing. It just makes everything, the little, what do you call those, pebbles? Or
or beads, and they hold everything nicely.
No, you don't get to play.
You'll get to put some of those in, I promise. These are leucadendrons. These are
bottle brush?
It is related to bottle brush, yeah, a really drought-tolerant landscape plant. And I like that also for floral because it lasts a long time in a vase. So even though this is sort of technically a flower, it's providing some greenery.
Will it get the bottle brush red thing that goes at the end?
It's a little different. It won't. This is a more colorful variety. So even though this is actually a leaf, it's quite gorgeous. I think it's very colorful. And as I'm putting these in, I sort of hold them up and do my sizing as I go that way. You could work pretty quickly. We actually often use what's called a floral knife. I don't know if you saw this scary little knife sitting here. And you can work very quickly, and you actually cut against your thumb. However, a lot of these, I'm just using my landscape pruners. They feel a little safer, and they cut through the woody material.
Don't get any ideas about taking it home and peeling your veggies with that. He loves knives.
So we've already provided a little bit of a framework for some of our arrangement. And next,
it's pretty just the way it is.
Exactly. And you know, typically these are lower on the price spectrum, as I mentioned before. As a florist, you're always working with a budget.
Yes.
And I will work backwards from that to kind of figure out how I can get the most bang for my buck, and the client's buck as well.
For the client, keeping the client in mind. Right?
Absolutely.
Do you offer a choice of plants? Say, now we could do this and that and that. Do you offer a choice and let them pick? Or do they tell you what they'd like and you go, oh, well, gee, we can't really do that. It's not in season. I mean, how do you do that with them?
Yeah, we often bounce ideas, a few different meetings. You know, once I see their budget, then I can tell them a little bit more. They'll often see some of my other work and say, I want something like this, but we'll shift a few things. But yeah, starting with what's going to be in season for their wedding is really important.
And actually, when you include things like artichokes, I mean, that's pricey.
Yeah, it can be. I wasn't able to get them for this show, but there's even a smaller variety of artichoke that you can get for a lot cheaper because they're not as desired in the stores.
I've seen them.
And they're
yeah.
darling for arrangements. They end up looking
little. They're just little
They're
things.
little
exactly.
mini-
They look
I've
like
seen
tulips almost.
Yeah,
yeah.
I've seen them.
So while we're talking about artichokes, I could show how I would incorporate this. I'd probably just cut it right at the base there, and insert one of my skewers solidly into the base.
I wonder how you're going to do that.
And because we're going to be nesting it in so much foliage, I don't even need to worry about covering this.
Sure.
If we wanted to get more elaborate, I could cover this with
the
floral tape. But
yeah.
And then I hold it up to size it, and then just cut that so that when I nest it in,
Oh, sure.
there it is.
You wouldn't know. You'd think, oh, it's on a big long stem.
Yeah. And in addition to the artichokes, I also love using succulents because after the arrangements are done, you can go ahead and plant them. And so this is one of the aeoniums that I cut off of one of the plants
right
in front. And these can actually be rooted in water. So you can just insert this straight into your arrangement.
Sure.
And at the end, it's probably going...
It's rooted, and there you go.
Exactly, more plants.
Sure.
And people really like that for their weddings too, because then they can start a garden.
Then they can take the book and start their garden
Exactly.
with
Yeah,
their wedding.
it's a neat
Lovely.
idea.
And so here we've started to really get a color palette going. There's the burgundies and the greens kind of all referencing each other through the plant material. So even though there's a lot of different types of thing, it's a very limited palette. And I think about that type of thing as well. My art training really is kind of always behind what I'm doing.
Well, did you have any, I know you've had all kinds of studies and education. Did you actually, and I know you had botany.
Yes.
But did you actually have floral design?
I did.
I should have
Part
known.
of it trial and error, but you know, all the information that you need to grow a plant, it's not exactly going to help you know how to use it in floral. If you're talking about just an event and it's one day, then that's not as crucial. You do need to know if it's going to wilt in a boutonniere immediately upon putting it on the groom, but most of these are really hardy, and I actually love working with these because they can last weeks.
Well, I would imagine that the presentation of a floral design would be very helpful to you as a designer in designing a landscape, let's say. So I think the elements, basic elements, are there of design, and if you understand those, it makes it a lot easier for you to do a little landscape.
Yeah.
You know, I think that would be ideal to have that skill and bring it into your other part of your business of landscaping.
I agree. I feel like there's constant crossover, and things I love to use as floral material, I love to put it in my clients' yards so they can go out into the garden and pick a nice bouquet whenever they want to.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, nice idea.
It makes your customers kind of feel comfortable that you really understand what design is and the elements that go into good design.
Yeah. And I do like to create theme gardens, and one of my favorite themes is a cutting flower garden.
A cutting flower.
So yeah, I also offer that.
Right. Well, now that would be like roses?
It could be roses.
I mean, I go out my yard, it's like
seeded eucalyptus too. All of these plants actually you could grow in your yard. These eucalyptus get a little bit big, but I even love artichokes. They're very architectural, gorgeous plants, and they're relatively low water use.
Now, what about when they get the purple seed thing?
Oh yeah, because they're thistles.
Yes.
People love those too.
Yes.
You can use those in an arrangement, but usually people are picking them to eat them a little bit sooner than that.
I didn't realize how fast-growing eucalyptus are. She loves to play around and design, and we didn't. And she got very fascinated in the silver dollar eucalyptus.
Beautiful.
It is.
And so I thought, hey, great. She's always grabbing them and planting with them. And she saw some eucalyptus trees, little baby ones.
Little
and
trees.
she said, well, I'm going to buy these and we'll plant them in the backyard. Well, we did.
Close to the
we
house.
did 3 of them. I remember they started getting big, and I pulled a couple out, but one just took off like crazy. I don't know, it must have had a reservoir
happy.
somewhere it tapped into.
Probably tapped into the water
and
line.
it ended up with a base trunk like this,
They will do
and
that.
it was about 30 some feet. Oh, it
Right
was
next to the
huge.
house.
Yeah.
Right next to the house, and we had to take it out.
It's all about the right plant for the right place. That's for sure. Otherwise, you're going to be climbing an uphill battle, either running out to prune it all the time, or you're going to have to pay a lot to have it taken out.
I learned my lesson. They're beautiful in a floral arrangement.
Yeah.
Just don't plant them.
I'm for pots. I like things in
Right.
pots. You
Yeah.
can control them.
Yeah, and succulents, of course, grow very well in pots, and they provide a lot of cutting material. Even their flowers, these are an Echeveria flower, and I think they're just
And they're a
amazing.
succulent plant?
Yeah, this is the flower from.
Oh,
That's what the
beautiful.
hummingbirds come for in the backyard when I'm out there.
Yeah, hummingbirds love
I have a whole bunch.
these.
I don't know what I have, but you know.
Oh,
it
I
has
didn't know
these
you
points.
had that one. Oh.
Yeah.
No,
You
well, I
have so
don't.
much. I just.
No, a lot
have
of the
no idea what
blossoms
it
are
is.
very similar. So the blossom looks like that.
Yeah.
It's probably not that plant.
And these actually came off of a plant that looks similar to this. This one's looking a little worse for wear. It was from an event that I did a while ago, and it's already created roots. So
It
this
wants
is
to
ready
grow.
to go in the ground. It was
Yeah.
something that just broke off accidentally.
Aw.
And it was so beautiful I couldn't throw it out because I knew it would eventually pop out new roots while it was just waiting to be planted.
Oh.
So
You know,
you can really create dry arrangements with succulents as well as incorporating them in more traditional arrangements. And the dry arrangements are good because that'll be a place that you
I
can
just never
propagate
thought
from.
of using succulents for flower arranging or
It's really
actually
fun.
mix in them.
Well, did you think about the asparagus?
Never.
You
Only
didn't think about asparagus either, or the artichokes.
That's where having a creative eye, no matter where you are, you can find beautiful things just shopping in your grocery aisle.
Well, have you ever done, well, I don't want to say their name, but there is a company that does have things
yes.
that you can eat.
Yes.
So did that
I'm
inspire
sorry, I ate
you?
your plant arrangement.
Did that inspire you or to do anything?
You know,
or-
I think that the main inspiration was thinking about a kissing ball. And that is kind of a fun floral request I sometimes have, where you hang a grouping of flowers, and that's where I was looking at the artichoke for one of my friend's weddings. She loves
Aw.
artichokes,
Yeah.
and she thought that they would be really gorgeous hanging, and we put the flowers around them. And I wanted to also incorporate that into our table arrangements, and that's where I developed putting them on skewers. And as I was shopping for them, I saw those asparagus. So we had to throw those in. But you know, one of my very favorite arrangements from that wedding was just a group of asparagus in a nice jar, and we left that alone on the table, and I got so many compliments on it.
Really?
Because you can go minimal. I mean,
Sure.
they all look gorgeous together, but it's also sometimes nice to just show off material very simply.
Well, we have a few minutes more. This is the wet arrangement. Are you going to
Yes.
do a dry arrangement then?
Yeah,
We have about maybe 8 minutes. We could do that.
Yeah, well, you do have to think about the plants that you're, especially with the succulents, excuse me, they don't all want to be in water. So these ones, the aeoniums, will root in water and not rot out. But a lot of our succulents, we're really wanting to have them heal over before they'll start rooting.
Yes.
So let me throw together just kind of a nice dry arrangement. This is actually a status relative, and I'll sometimes use those in my fresh arrangements, and then they actually dry beautifully and keep looking like that.
Yes.
And I love creating dry arrangements because they always look good in your home. And so you can create a mixture that way, and then just set your succulents in them as they're waiting to propagate. So these are just little things that we've taken off a main plant, and
yes.
you can just kind of nest them right in with your your dry arrangement, and that weighting right there is going to start spreading out roots, and you can start to see that happen.
Wow.
And as soon as it does that, then you can put it in the ground.
And then you know it's time.
Then you know it's time. If you put it right in the ground, it actually might rot.
Right.
So
Oh,
it's really
better to
important.
hold that-
It's,
let
be-
it
it's
sit.
much better.
And so you get to enjoy them twice. Once as an arrangement, and then when they're ready, you take them out
Exactly.
and plant them.
Exactly.
The protea.
Oh, the
How do you
protea,
say
yeah.
that? Protea.
These are really beautiful. So this one's fresh, but it's going to dry as well. So,
So
yeah.
you would use this one in a water one or a dry one?
You know,
Or
both. I would use it first
that is
in a
fresh.
wet one, and then as it dries out, I tend to not throw things out if there's another use for them.
Sure.
That's
Now, is this going to root or it won't root?
No, it would be hard to make that root. I know, they're gorgeous.
Oh, so that one you wouldn't then, after it served its purpose in an arrangement, then it would
Yeah.
get thrown out possibly.
It would, but you know, just like these,
But this one is
they
good.
last for a long time dried, so you don't have to just toss it the second you're done.
Did we
with it.
And these-
mention the container? Because you actually,
Yeah.
you made this, right?
Yeah,
the
so
container
this was
itself?
from that auction, and you know, it actually has some printing on it from an event. You see all of those at thrift stores that people just cast aside, and by putting the burlap around it, it kind of tied it in with the other vases that we were using for
So
the
glue?
event.
Do you actually glue it on here?
I
or
did a
just
little
tie it?
dot of glue.
Just
yeah,
to
I
make
used.
sure.
I love those glue dots. They're so easy to work with, especially if you're working with children. You don't want to use a hot glue gun.
And you just
and
tie-
they're just a
tie
little
that.
dot that you put on there, and then it's
Oh.
it's
But
set.
you tied this.
I did tie that bow.
Such talent.
How long would these last in a dry, you know, how can you?
I've had some for years. I even
really?
have some that
Really?
my grandmother had that dried, and it even held some color.
And
So
they
as
hold
long
their
as you
color?
dust it off every once in a while.
Well, you
they're
know, in
good.
Santa Cruz at the Arboretum there at the college.
I love the Arboretum.
Yes.
They have a
well,
great
they used to have a really big, then they died out, and then they replanted them. Mm-hmm. So I did go back when I was shocked to find that they weren't there, and then I heard the story, and then they replanted, and so
Yeah.
they had to start out small.
Oh yeah.
Again.
Yeah.
So
they're
have you
slow
visited
growing.
that place? It's
I love
awesome.
it there. It's so inspiring.
Yes, yes. That's really about the only place I know that they have. We still have a few minutes now.
Okay.
So if you want to show us,
Well,
give us more
another
ideas.
thing that I've been having a fun time doing with succulents is making hanging ornaments. You think Christmas time,
Yeah.
but I think it works a lot of different places around the home. So this is just a little piece of a succulent that I took off of a plant. And then what I'll do is just take a little piece of wire and start wrapping it around the plant. And this is something that, again, these are going to start rooting as they're hanging out in your home.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of create a little hook. So you snug it around there. And then,
Make your little
yeah, you make your
loopy.
little hooks. I like making it a little bit more attractive and also safer. These are just round pliers, and you just swirl it around like that so that you don't poke anyone. And then you can hang that, you know, it could be off the side of a vase. It could be along with some of your house plants. These work great at Christmas time. I also used them as bows for my presents, both for people's birthdays and definitely at Christmas
Wow.
time.
Pretty neat, huh?
This is one of my favorite
yeah.
ones that,
Oh,
isn't that just gorgeous?
that's adorable.
And so by putting the wire on the back of it, that makes you
That
able
makes
to
a
secure it
beautiful
to
bow.
the ribbon or even as a standalone piece.
oh,
And
they're
again,
just so
these
cute.
can
Look at
be,
that.
So after they get their present and take off
They have another
their bow,
present.
multiple
they let
presents.
it, and they can plant it.
Absolutely.
And if you have a child there, you got to tell the kid, you know, tear them up and.
A little bit
And
more
if you
delicate
use
than most.
broccoli, they can eat it.
It's true.
No, they could paint with it.
Oh,
Paint with
well,
it.
in your case, you'll paint with
I
it.
paint with asparagus.
Yeah.
That's pretty neat. So your favorite material, would it be the eucalyptus? Oh, wait, here's something else.
Yeah, there's all kinds of
what
good
is
things.
this? This is
I love, this is a heather. It's
Heather.
a great landscape plant, but it provides some nice greenery and kind of filler. So this is going to work in your dry arrangements as
dry.
well as your, so this is what it looks like fresh, but you can just kind of
Ooh.
So
nest that in.
it's
That's
good
so
for either
coordinated.
wet or dry arrangement.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this is a plant that actually grows into a huge tree called a silver tree. Again, I wouldn't plant that one too close to your yard, to your house.
Really?
But it's related to some of these other ones. But I think it's more of a greenery, but it's a really beautiful sheen.
It stays like that? It stays pointed?
It's
It
one of
looks
those
like a lot
Dr.
of-
Seuss trees that it's kind of fun. It stays pointed and it branches out and looks kind of amazing.
What's the name of this?
It's called a silver tree.
A silver
A
tree.
silver tree.
So there's,
Yeah, I like working with my kind of color balance, both in the landscape and floral.
yeah, it's like a feather.
And nothing
kind of
wrong with
soft.
good texture, too.
That's
A
really
little
soft.
duster there.
Yeah.
Ooh, it's tickly.
Wow.
So you can,
Oh, that's going to be a little top heavy, huh?
yeah, I'm not
You
good.
wouldn't. No,
Excuse
No,
me for
that's
that.
not as good for dry. That's not quite as good for dry arrangements.
Yeah,
But yeah.
so this one you'd use in a wet arrangement. It would,
Yes.
yeah, it would go dry and.
Yeah, I think it would start to brown out a little bit. But
wow.
yeah, these
Well-
are some of my favorite plants for both the landscape and also your arrangements.
Very, very exciting. So thank you for being here
Thank
again
you
and
so
showing
much
us
for
all
having
these
me.
wonderful things. We'd really like to encourage people out there to experiment, have fun, start mixing things and using things in a different way that you haven't done before. Mix, match, whatever. Just keep experimenting because by using things in a new way, you're actually really helping to develop your creativity, which is always a good thing, right? So thanks for watching the show. Be happy, be creative. Watch the show again. Thanks. Yeah, this is a neat one as well.